So friends, we'll start. We'll start, all okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Few announcements first. One is on the serious side. Please listen. We have been having a bit of a problem of lot of members missing lot of messages in our group. I imagine it's just due to the sheer quantity. I'm not saying we should reduce the quantity or anything, but some of the, for example, in the last 3 days, I have posted twice regarding our meeting timings, location, everything, and still 2-3 members missed it.
I have missed it.
That's what I'm saying. It is not. It is just getting lost in the total number. Correct?
I've been talking about.
So lot of them have told me about it. We are feeling it now. I'm not saying the group is wrong or what we are doing is wrong, because that is not the case. There's sheer too much. What do we do about it? What sort of, should we have some rules?
You have to open a separate chat only for announcements.
I have a suggestion. The DP of the group, we make the book, right? I'll just add the text to it and give it to you. You change the DP. That is the date, time, and venue on the DP. So DP every.
At the moment, I'm just putting the book. We can have a text also. It is not just that. No, there are a lot of other messages.
Then people have to star them.
No, Suresh, why can't you just make it admins only message for a while? So that people have no choice but to read it if they want to go back to that.
Yes.
Is that fair? Let us look at it this way. I feel it is not fair because we have a lot of upcountry members who have no other way of communicating with us. They are using the group.
Just for a while.
It is not communication, it is just forwarding messages. That's not communication. I don't.
I think his idea is safer. See, all we do is either we have another group, and that only the people who are having issues with finding these messages, etc., can join. It's not necessarily everybody joins. And all my official messages, the SansSerif messages, will be posted in both.
Call it something really official.
Yeah, something like that.
No, make official one admin only messages. No, just write SansSerif.
That will be admin only. There is no question of anybody posting to that.
Yeah, the official one.
Things are back and forth. You understand? There is one, there is a series about books. Talk only on books.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just
No, this is even better, but we'll be able to control all over again. The same thing can happen.
Yeah.
No, I think we should have one. Yeah, I think what Mason is saying makes sense. Have one only for announcements.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
group, the general chat. The other group, that's Suresh, just in
And just an admin.
That we, but please don't overpost. That's about it. I don't see, nobody is misusing the site or anything, but it is not really correct. We need to see this official SansSerif messages get through. So whatever I am posting, I'll post in both. Not just the official group, but also our regular group. One. And second, should we have any rules on what we can post, what we cannot post? At the moment, till now, we have not had any major issue, except couple of times somebody commenting on somebody else's post and all that, which is not really nice. That's the way I look at it. I have clamped down on this in my college group where I am administrator. It has worked very well. Nobody posts like that anymore. They don't comment on somebody else's group in a way that can be misunderstood even.
Ideally, we should restrict it to
Books, yes.
Ideal, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to easily.
any informative, some videos.
That's what is going to happen.
Or something.
It's happening, okay. And honestly, quite a few of us do enjoy it. I can't deny it. So I feel really hesitant to put a stop or something.
No controversial topics that could provoke a very, that provoke people into responding, defending a position.
We have done it in my college group. We had this problem initially, and now this is strict rule, no politics, no religion. No religion, no politics. And it is being followed. And in addition, so even then some posts are offensive and all that. Some of them do find it. I said, no complaining. You don't like a post, delete it, damn it. The major rules have been followed by everybody. No fine tuning the rules or anything. You don't like a post, simply delete it so you won't see too many posts you have to read. It has worked for me. Because I have something like 120 members there, a big group. And it works.
I think the best thing is to have one chat and only talk about
Only official.
If we all want to chat among each other, we'll form our own chat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. One.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the vast, even the vast majority is
I think-
majority of the posts now, they're video forwards, jokes, which find that's not necessarily what I come to this group for. Yeah.
So I think let us do it this way. Initially, we will start another group where I post all the official messages, so you can never miss a official meeting date or any messages or anything, or voting, elections. At the same time, let the other group continue the way it is continuing. With if we find any offensive post or anything, we bring it out and say that this sort of posting shouldn't be done. Okay? Initially, we'll try it for a few months and see how it goes, and then if needed, fine tune it.
Although, could I make a request of anybody posting a video to the group? Would you all mind at least writing a line about what the video is about? I don't necessarily.
No.
No, Suresh, if you're going to make a post, I don't necessarily want to. I just feel like it's just more respectful of everybody's time. If I'm going to post, it does not necessarily. What are I posting about? Maybe I've seen the Shashi Tharoor
Millions.
Oxford thing or whatever it is. It's just, I feel it's respectful of other people's time on my part to just write a few words saying, okay, this is a video of, a hummingbird in flight, or this is a video of Shashi Tharoor talking about books, whatever it is. That way the other people can make the decision to
Open the file or not.
video or not. Yeah.
That's also
You
a good
take
idea.
responsibility for your forward. You don't just blindly forward to every group. That's what I find so many people do.
Let's try it for a few months, see how it goes. Then secondly, we are having 1 hour, out of which honestly after the introductory meetings and our snacks break and all that, we are having maybe 40 minutes for book discussion, 35-40 minutes. Honestly, it is not enough time.
So shall we come up with
These are the few things we need to work out. Are we willing to stretch it half an hour more or something?
I can't stay beyond 5, but I can come up.
3:30 is fine. 3:30 is I would rather have it earlier because staying later means worse.
Yeah, later is tricky always for most of us.
I don't mind staying.
Suresh,
Someone has a helicopter to drop me.
Pardon?
I have a suggestion. So can we all make a commitment to start at 4 o'clock?
Yes.
And eat snacks after the discussion?
No, but or reach earlier and finish your snacks by.
That's what I am thinking. Eat earlier.
Yes, yes, fine. That is
Because otherwise it's not a never ending.
Yeah, we're going on with it, yeah.
Like today it's very late, Suresh.
Yeah, and I have to leave at 5.
And even other groups will say.
So, how do you do it?
We keep it at 4, Suresh. And Ala says, let's keep it at
What is the harm of snack in the morning like that?
Those who want stuff come early.
Yes.
I think we should have snacks first. You are right. That's a good idea. We come at 3:30, have our snacks. Maybe 3:45 we start, and one or two
Ala's not able to come.
few minutes. No, we can manage. You may miss one speaker.
Even if you're having snacks, by the time
Ah.
it's still before.
Yeah.
Making a snacks are still there once you are.
You will meet everybody. You are only coming a few minutes late.
We will start at 4. Let's not do that.
And Swati will come and bond and have your tea and do some more.
Which means our snack should be after the meeting, not before.
3:30 snacks are there, you can start.
That way, this meeting we start at 4. Okay. So 3:30, from 3:30 the place is available for us.
Discussing, somebody took a plate and had
Ah.
conversation.
Okay, so let's not wait to finish everything and then start. Let's start as
5 minutes to 4, we can start with the announcements.
yes.
I'll do my announcement before 4, not like today. I'll do my announcement before 4. After 4, it is only the book portion.
Done. So
So-
we start with the discussion.
So the time slot question doesn't come up then.
No.
Because I was wondering if they say only 3 minutes to each member, we may be. Some of them might find 3 minutes too much, but some of them will really have something to say and they can't. That doesn't appear fair.
No, I think we should give everybody just 2 minutes. They're a large number. Today we have so many, so we have to give it
Some of them have got so much to
No, they
say.
should compensate.
Is that correct? No, it is not correct.
So let's start this argument.
For today only, since we have a lot of people talking, let the people whose voices have not been heard frequently so far, please say that.
Yeah.
Which means, okay, let us put it this way. Purva, we don't just pass the mic around. You call out who wants to talk next and you decide who talks next.
Clockwise
And
and
school work,
stick to
those are to leave early can talk first.
We early will be given a choice. Okay.
and Tejo. Anybody else has to leave early?
I do, but I'm not talking because I'm available.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll just listen to you and say hi.
My review, Lessons in Chemistry. I love the book. It was for me unputdownable. No question about it. It's one of the fastest reads also, I found. Is it a feministic book? A big yes. Is it humorous? Again a big yes. But the humor is intrinsic to the plot and situations itself rather than the witty sayings or funny characters. It is there in the story. Is it ponderous, heavy? A definite no. On the face of it, it appears to be a very light book during the reading. But on further contemplation, the serious subjects emerge. After reading it, you realize that this book has everything. Feminism, misogyny, gender stereotypes, equality, importance of challenging societal expectations, women's pursuit of knowledge, and equality in a male-dominated world, family values, self-worth, humor, mystery. One book has got everything in it. All the characters, including the dog, bar one, are believable, relatable. But bar one is the child Madeline, is the exception. I feel she should have been shown as slightly older. Too much was expected of her at that age. Too much. Then almost a fairy tale ending. If you want a one-line summary of a book like this, you get to meet Elizabeth Zott, scientist by training, cooking show host by default, who one meal at a time galvanizes her audience to question the lives they have been served. A matter for discussion. At the end of each episode of Supper at 6, Elizabeth Zott says, "Children, set the table. Your mother needs a moment to herself." This is extremely profound, means a lot. Can we analyze it further? That's it.
I don't mind. I've never read a
Tejo, Anu, and then the
Do I need a mic?
That's fine? Okay, all right. Okay, I've never read a book like this before, and it's very unlike what I've read in the past. I like the roles. Everybody's role was interesting, individual, and also I feel they were all, woven together like a fine tapestry, because each of them had a relationship with each other, and it is a tapestry of misplaced trust, virtues, compassion, and strength of character. This is what I observed, and I was very impressed with Adam, and I loved the dog 630. A character, I feel, whose mind is allegorical to a human, and even better than one. an interesting foray into the minds of rowers, which I've never, ever gotten to, because it is minds of resilience, which I never knew before. Then, Elizabeth support her friend, who's a die-hard support for her. This is loyalty also. There's so many. Different kind of virtues which one sees, and we also see a lot of jealousy, negative, both positive and negative in this. Then of course Adam, his past and his angst, and finally he had to succumb to his own fatal fall, which depicts that genius or not, one has to face the reality of fate playing its own games, the way he died. Okay, and the final visit of the mother to nurture the unwed bride and granddaughter, many firsts for me, and I simply will never forget these characters. We are witnesses to the lives of all these characters. It's like a story with all its ups and downs of hope and disappointment carved before us, and we are witness to this drama. This is how I felt this book was. Okay. Thank you.
Other book. I don't think I did that.
No, it's for the people who aren't here. Should I?
Can you just
Maybe
spin
you
it?
can hold it for her. Yeah.
No, just spin it. Just spin it. No, just spin it. I never write a review because I really don't know how to. So I am just telling you what I feel about the book. Okay. So it was a very, very original book. And as Suresh said, we could really speed through it, and they had all the emotions in it. There was joy, there was sorrow, and all the negative emotions of jealousy, hatred, and there was love. There was everything in that book. So I just felt so moved by the whole book and very absorbing. And the characters, I loved the good characters. And when I say good, I mean Elizabeth, Madeline, Calvin, Walter Pine, Amanda, Harriet, and of course my really dear little dog, 630. And I hated the men. I couldn't bear them. Donati, Levinson and Mayers, I couldn't just bear their behavior. So at the end, I really got struck by the way she wrote. Every end of the chapter, there was one line that stood out so much that you wanted to turn the page to see the next. So I loved that about that book. And then there was also, but I was very disappointed about the ending. Because it was like everything happy thing. It was like a Denise Robbins or a Barbara Calder, something that all fitted in perfectly. And there were sometimes strange things. How did that Wakely suddenly come into the library? She suddenly brought in characters, the priest. She came and Madeline was looking for this. It was also convenient. Coincidences. Yeah, it happened.
To make you feel
but very
good.
rarely, it's all a make you feel good thing. So I thought that was strange. The ending could have been a little more exciting, it just sort of fitted in like a jigsaw puzzle, and it was too boring, the ending. And there are some few sentences that struck me. And Calvin says, when one is raised on a heavy diet of sorrow, it is hard to imagine that others might have had an even larger serving. No, those are the things that touch you. But there were nights I laughed, there were nights I cried. So it was such an emotional book. I thought I couldn't imagine myself sitting in my bedroom and just laughing, especially with Pine and the little dog and Madeline, all the things they said. It was so funny. So I better stop now. Yeah. Anu, I'm sorry. Yeah. Anu has.
Yeah, Anu and Ramesh.
I don't even know where to put it.
So, I have read all of 50 pages of the book because I just couldn't find time. I've been away for 4 months. I tried my best, but that was about all I could manage. But in those 50 pages, what I found was the title is really apt. It was so refreshing to see a case of such pure, unconditional love. Not once did they try and change each other. Not once did they pass a judgment about, your murky past, my this, my failing, your this thing. Nothing, So the acceptance was so huge that I found it really heartwarming, And they knew people talk about them. They let them, Nobody complained, nobody questioned, nothing, So till now, I agree with all of you that it's very, very refreshing, very different. And I marvel at this kind of love being available because you don't see it around you. You don't see it anywhere, The minute they say they are in love, they say, see, you know, I did not expect you to do this to me,
No, there was a perfect chemistry.
Yeah, that's what the lesson, the title is so apt,
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was told by someone much younger that this is a STEMinist book. So it's about STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and medicine. And it's a plug for women to get more involved in it. So the only thing that I found to be a real stretch was Elizabeth's educational background. She never went to school. So I find it hard to believe that she could have become such a qualified scientist without any formal education. But the book is not at all lighthearted. So I used to wonder why everyone said it was lighthearted in the messages, because it touches upon every fraught and controversial topic in society, except for racism. That's one thing I found it didn't touch upon, but everything else. And why was the book set in the 1960s? Is it to provoke the reader into wondering whether things have really changed that much today, 60 years later? So I couldn't quite figure out why the 1960s. And so misogyny, religion, Elizabeth's father. I don't know if anyone here, anyone who's been in the US, the tele-evangelists, they're such charlatans. So this person is one step further. He actually tries to claim he works miracles, and so many people are willing to get fooled until it takes somebody to die before, he actually has to go to jail for people to stop believing in it. And then the Catholic Church, the bishop, again, it touches upon some of the issues that the church is facing today. But Calvin Evans, he's a really tragic character. Everything bad that can happen happens to him, and he dies so suddenly. I think he could have lived for longer, but I guess the author needed someone to die for the story to progress. Yeah. And orphans, being orphaned, how difficult it is, foster care in the US. I don't know if this group was the one where we had a discussion, but there are many foster parents, and people who adopt are very different from those who foster. There's a commitment in people who adopt children. They're very committed. But foster parents, sometimes the children come and leave. There's a lot of churn, and the families are incentivized, and they don't always provide a good environment. And there was even a video circulating where the foster children kind of have to parade in front of prospective foster parents, highlighting their own achievements and all that. So it's very sad. So it talks about that, and the power of corporates. And I think the author employs caricature. Every character, she focuses on a couple of features that are extreme. Mark Donati is the worst sort of boss. He molests women, he steals their research, he doesn't seem to, reward talent, he claims all credit for himself. Or if you take, Calvin Evans is very tragic. Everything terrible happens to him. Harriet is very unhappy. A very unhappy marriage. The tortured Wakely. The Reverend Wakely is so confused when he could have done so much more. He didn't do enough. So you see that kind of caricature to kind of highlight the evils present in society. And did anyone notice when 630 first makes an appearance, he's a mangy dog, he's not good looking, very sad looking. And then suddenly when he meets the Reverend in the park with Madeline, he becomes a handsome dog. And, he's a huge dog, enormous dog. So I was wondering, does that dog kind of reflect the changing fortunes of Elizabeth? Because by then Elizabeth herself has a successful show, she's better off. So I found that shift in describing 630 to be somewhat, something like a hidden message there. And then even the show, Supper at 6:30, I think the book, just like the title of the show is Supper at 6:30, but it's actually more a chemistry show, more about empowering women, so many other messages there. And it's the same thing about the book. It appears to be a light-hearted, rom-com, whatever you want to call it, but it's far more serious. And then what else?
But did you like it again?
Yeah, I like the book. I like the book, and I think it's inspiring for people to read it. And I think it's true. I mean, women in STEM, when you think of engineering and medicine, sure, there are lots of women, especially in IT. But if you think of the traditional sciences, there are not that many. And in general, women avoid technology and science. And, my mom used to teach in various colleges, and at one point when she taught in Anna Adarsh, they did a survey. It was a girls' college, and the survey came back saying that any family where there were boys and girls in the family, the girls felt that they were being shortchanged. If it was only girls or an only child, then fine, nobody complained. But she said universally, they said the parents pay more attention to their brothers, their wishes are not fulfilled, they are not encouraged to study. So it's very true in India, but unfortunately, even though you wouldn't believe it, it's extremely true in the US also. So I think everywhere, yeah. So it's a very sad state of affairs, because women are mostly, they're capable of performing better than men in these fields, but they're never allowed a chance to do that. So I think that's all I had.
So we've had 4. Does anybody else have to leave early who wants to speak before I ask? Okay, so we've had 4 positive views of the book. Did anybody not like it? Yeah, I mean, I think it's standard by now that I don't like our book choices, but
Now go to everybody who liked it and come.
okay.
Okay, I don't have much to talk about it. Okay. Okay. Not my type of book. Though I like feel-good books. Okay. Now I'm sorry. For me, a book is always a personal experience. Okay. So when I was a teenager, I wrote a short story, Great Aspirations. Then pretty lady wears a crisp cotton sari, drives a car, goes to work, leaving her hair free. Those were my dreams, okay? This novel is just like that. A teenage dream. That's all. I failed to define its success. It's a book that could have been rejected by readers, but was not. I'm not surprised. I read that even the rowing machine has seen a spike in sale. That is what I read in, I think, The Guardian or one of those things, okay? An excellent formula for success. Attractive heroine, an ideal love story, a lovable dog, comic book caricatures of bad men, Hindi film style long-lost son theme, an adamant and logical woman fighting a patriarchal establishment and coming out successfully. What else does one need, actually? Okay. The timing of the novel also helped. An unknown and unpredictable enemy, COVID virus, faced by the humanity. 2 years of fear. The language is, suddenly you find a novel which has got a language is funny, light, the novel of sunshine and vanilla. The novel perhaps was an escape valve for the writer and the reader. Actually, tell the truth, now all this is I didn't like the book, okay? I found certain parts of the novel dragging, story little grating, the plot was a little too sweet, smacked. A dream come true nanny for mad, a predictable TV producer. Thank God Zot did not start living with the rich man's life with Avery Parker. Thank God. If that had come...
Tell us how you really feel. Oh, yeah. So, Latika?
I think she was saying, let's go. Now, then you will be the last one.
Yeah, we do. We can do the rest clockwise. Yeah. Yeah, we have 20 minutes guys, so do keep an eye on the time. Yeah. Does anybody
Okay. You know, you've got a feisty, abrupt, in your face genius in Zot, but she's very 2022 or this century. She's not 1952 because that's where the book is. And I'm the mother of a scientist. So I just felt that, okay, you know, you didn't have to make the whole thing, the seriousness of her work being taken away, the seriousness of her being pushed aside, this even coming to the fact that, you know, there are many stories of how, okay, even if it's not sexual abuse, there's a lot of abuse that just got pushed under. And somehow that, what do you say, Zot not continuing with her degree. If she hadn't done her PhD, she at least in the US has to get her master's degree. That was overlooked totally. So some of those things just did not gel at all. Okay, it's very amusing reading, I mean, the logical Zot versus anybody else who's trying to do anything, trying to fire her, trying to tell her that she's fired from the show, fired from Hastings Lab, etc. All that, yeah, it's light-hearted, it's funny. But somewhere it just lost out. I mean, I felt it wasn't there. It's one of those books you can read and, you know, you say, yeah, I've read it. That's the kind of thing that I felt it was a good read. But when you look back on what is the story, and, you know, I'll explain why. Please bear with me for a couple of minutes so that I can really come to something which I hark about. Do any of you know Lisa Meitner or heard about her? Have any of you heard of Chien Shiung Wu? Have any of you heard of Phyllis Bowles? They're all scientists who lost out on the Nobel. I've got a whole lot of them. So when you look at that, now you understand what anybody feels about this thing. The women in science, 1952 you're talking about, they were being, Rosalind Franklin, I mean, now I didn't mention her name, but Franklin is actually the one who's taken a photograph of that. And what did Crick and Watson do? So I just felt that the author could have brought in some of this misery into it instead of, you don't know what Zot is doing with, of all the topics, abiogenesis. You know, you don't know. What is she doing excepting making coffee with one of those things? Yeah. What is she doing as a scientist? It's just not there. The entire chemistry has gone in cooking. And yes, there's a lot of stuff on cooking which to me it looked amusing, but that, I mean, because I'm no cook, so it worked beautifully. But that's it. But this is the thing, for a tale where there is something, I mean, where there are people who really had a bad time, you have to wait right up till there's Dudna and Charpentier to see two ladies being No, she's motivated a lot of women damn good to do rowing.
Yeah, even me, I won't mind growing and growing. I mean, if my last word is this: if only with the algorithms I could learn to swim or I could learn to row, I'd be the happiest person on earth and say, yay, Elizabeth Zott, you've taught me something. Come on, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't. I don't think so. If it's worked for anybody, please let me know. I'm willing to learn.
It worked for the novelist. She has got a fantastic a movie has been made, Atlas.
Okay, I can go. As opposed to to these two people. I like the book. I like the book insofar that it was her first attempt. She's a lady in her 60s, the mid-60s, her very first novel. She's trying to impart, she's very American, but she's made a world book. Why? Because she's taken a sensitive subject and put a bit of herself. She had a dog called 3.5 or whatever, so she calls the dog 630. So she's put a lot of herself. She's a rower, so she has to bring rowing. So she's just bringing something in her contemporary life form into the novel. And it's her first attempt. She must have gone to Google, how do I write a novel? Try not to make the mistakes. There are thousands of books which are better than her book. You must see, look at the competition. She's an unknown. Why should she succeed? Did she have somebody support her? No. She made the book appealing in some level or the other. Nobody had the guts to call a dog 630 and get away with it. And I know Latika and I talk to our doggies. So she's got a lot of support there. And I have taught one of my dogs 3,000 words and he understood only 4. So that's how we go back that way. Anyway, they learn, but they don't learn 3,000. But anyway, good on 630 for doing 1,000. So she brought out that thing, and then she brought out America of the 50s. Like I vividly remember, because my dad used to work for the American State Department. During the 50s, one of the fellows said that, well, he was going to say, I was born in 1954. That chap was born in 55. He said around 60s, he came from a small town in US where they had the police force, which had no money. So all the cars were neatly laid out and kept. And once in a way, these guys used to go start the cars and reverse them up and bring them out. See, these are things this girl would have grown up with. And she brought it into her story so that poor fellow gets killed. And this poor dog thinks it's responsible because I don't know about the leash laws in that country. But that country is weird. So, it always has some law coming up. And yeah. So there you go. It's a very personal experience which gelled. And you don't have to be an American to enjoy the book. That's what I liked. The language was unpretentious, not lofty like the novels we like to read or pretend to read. I thought it was down to earth English. I pretend a lot because I sell a lot. And I thank this lady for writing, and I'm sure she may not even write another book. But she's told her part. She's brought rowing to the fore. She's brought an amusing doctor, an obstetrician who goes about cleaning all those nappies and the babies running around. The selfish little dog which hides food far away. The dog doesn't trust her. So all these little quirky things is something we can relate to. There's one whole chapter about the dog hiding away some food. Yes. Yeah, it's so nice. Which author ever thought of that? I thought of it. We all thought of it, but we're not doggies, no? Anyway, thank you. I mean, it's an amusing book. I'll read it again after some time, which is very rare coming from me. Thank you.
Right, just clip it on, otherwise you won't get a...
Huh? Oh. Well, I'm only going to say a few words anyhow. But the author was a copywriter in the advertising world, I imagine, and I would think some of her experiences with the male world would have come out of that. And one lesson I've learned is to carry a 14-inch knife in your handbag. But that would be a rare experience, I would hope. But yeah, her experiences were very mid-60s, I would say. I mean, she's 60-year-old now, and she apparently was rejected by 98 agents. Yes. So she didn't have an easy time of the novel being accepted, but now, I mean, for it to become a
a bestseller. I don't know. I mean, it was an easy read, a delightful read in many ways, because you escaped into that world. And cooking-wise, I think I even learned some ideas that when you put butter in, you wait till it froths up before you put anything on top. I didn't know that. I just put butter and everything in together. But yeah, I was fascinated by her, the chemistry of it. And as you say, it was a good read. I mean, it's sweet. But that's on hindsight. While you're reading it, I mean, yeah, the kids are a bit too cute. And the men are a bit too... She was a bit misogynist with her male characters, but I would think that came out of the experiences of her advertising world, because they were never nice people. Anyhow, I enjoyed it.
I haven't read the book. I haven't even read a review, so I have no idea, but I've read all your comments. It made me curious to come and listen to you all, and I'm actually in town this week, so I said I must show up and at least say hi to everybody, and I want to read the book. From hearing what all you have said, more so because of what they said than what you guys said. I'm curious to read the book, more because of what they said than what all the rest of you have said. The negative comments have piqued my curiosity more than the positives all of this.
Yeah. So I read this book last year in October, and I'm reading parts of my review. So for a foodie like me to see Nigella Lawson say nice things about a book, it's like the very ultimate cherry on the cake. A schoolmate of mine who coincidentally had recommended Abraham Verghese' first book to me, she hit my interest spot when she recommended this one to me. I don't even know the C of chemistry. I've never been a science student. But I'm talking about a strong, kick-ass woman who uses chemistry to cook and create a cooking show, which I found impressive. It's set in the 60s, and it's given me like a glimpse of the way of thinking and how life was back then. The central character, according to me, was humorous, tough, and powerful. I found her very endearing. She is unprepared for parenthood, and honestly, are any of us ever? She loves her dog and chemistry and just wants to be a scientist and taken seriously for one. And unfortunately, even in 2023, there are women who still need to be taken seriously, and it's lacking in not only our country, all over the world. It's whimsical, and the protagonist is vibrant and so lovable. I coined a word to say I was besotted by this book because her surname is Zott. I'm amazed that it's her debut work. So there are two quotes that I had written down. One is, every day she found parenthood like taking a test for which she had not studied. The questions were daunting and there wasn't nearly enough multiple choice. I'm being honest here, it's something I struggle with even now. And another line which I think comes many times in the book, when you start doubting yourself, she said, whenever you feel afraid, just remember, courage is the root of change, and change is what we're chemically designed to do. I will definitely be watching the series when it starts in October.
Yeah. So I'm one of the people who did not like the book. Oh, sorry. I'm one of the people who... hang on.
Better.
So I'm one of the people who absolutely did not like the book, which is I'm really saddened by, because honestly this is Purva Bait. It's a historical book about a woman set in the 60s, and she's elevating something that is traditionally feminine and making people take it seriously. Unfortunately, I am also a student of what we call social history, not great men, but everyday stuff. And unfortunately, knowing some of the history make reading this book a real slog, because of a bunch of things. First thing, it is completely unrealistic in Elizabeth Zott herself, and more generally because look, if I wanted to be preached at, I would call my friends from JNU Social Sciences department and have them talk to me. I would not read a book. I would not read a novel, and it's who says, oh, you know, in normal conversation, acetic acid or sodium chloride. It felt very much, oh, look at how smart I am. Compounded by there is no connection between abiogenesis and food science. They are two completely different fields of study, and it felt very much like a non-scientist trying to talk about stuff she didn't know and failing miserably. Were there things I liked about the book? Yes, I liked the conceit of it. I did like I did like what I was trying to do. The problem is that the problem was basically everything else about it. The characters were flat. Elizabeth Zott is. I'm sorry, nobody is an expert in that many things unless they're Batman, and even Batman has been parodied for that. And I'm sorry, I did not like the kid. I did not like the dog. Like if you're gonna do magical realism, basically lean into it. Do Gabriel Garcia Marquez, do Silvia Moreno. For me, what was really jarring is that she does not have the skills to write the book she wants, because she kind of flip-flops between magical realism, a very dark, everybody hates her, everybody wants her to fail, and there's rape and there's God knows what else, and this light frothy, rom-com style thing. I kind of see what she was trying to do. The problem is that because of, she's a debut author. Because of her lack of skill, what should have been this, wonderful mosaic wound up being this absolute nonsense khichdi. No. I honestly, I have read better actual romances, so my standards are higher. No, I like what this book was trying to do. I just wish it did it better.
I hate to leave. I'm just loving all what you're saying. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.
I've read about 50 pages now. I just started the book, 50 pages down. One thing is the book is very readable. The book is very readable. It's unput-downable. You can race through it. And obviously the writer is not a scientist, because as you mentioned, there are loopholes in her, what research they do and all that. But probably she's a good cook, because she's comes out with good creations and special dishes every day. But as a first book, I think you have to appreciate that. And
Mockingbird was the first book.
Okay, but he might have been more talented, Sorry. So in the book is readable, and I like the character. But probably, as you said, there are some, factual inaccuracies in the research lab, those things. And Lyndon Johnson was the president. So that gives the time, so you'll have to look. So I remember reading that. So would that be 50s or 60s?
No, but the date 1952 is mentioned in the beginning of the book.
Yeah,
but then the book later talks about the 1960s.
Yeah, probably.
So I was confused. She said 1952 is what I thought it was. But later she talks about that show, people in the 1960s don't talk about God on television.
The daughter's age will come.
Oh, I see. Time travel.
Yeah. So, okay. So I think it's readable, and I plan to complete reading it. And there may be these factual inaccuracies. They mentioned Lyndon Johnson, the 50s, then suddenly you jump to 60s, and so I'm a little in the early part of the book. But I think it's a nice read. Once in a while you get a light book. Thank you.
I'll pass it to them.
I don't have much to say.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
I don't mind in the car.
Okay. No, I think everybody, no, I'll just hold it. I think most of you have covered everything. And I just didn't like the ending. I thought it was very contrived. So I liked the book. I enjoyed the book. That's all I have.
I'm holding the mic for you. What do you finish?
I finished.
So I'm not this is my first review that I'm here for. I'm not quite sure what to say, but I'll speak about how the book affected me. I flip-flopped between, oh, I like this book, oh, I hate it. There were parts of the book that I found completely contrived and not sufficiently detailed, like what did these people do in Hastings' lab? What did they do, this Calvin Klein do in his lab of many beakers? I'm not really sure what he actually was lauded about or anything. None of those salient details were there. This character was raised in a bad way. He had a bad childhood, but he should have, been in an elevated, luxurious upbringing, that kind of stuff. But he goes from being this person that nobody really likes, who likes nobody, to suddenly falling in love with this Zot. Similarly, Zot had this horrible childhood where her you've all said about the parents and the death of her brother affected her so much. But she's become this person who is supposedly resolute. She makes up her mind, she'll go there. And resilient, because so many bad things happen to this woman, but she keeps coming back and coming back. And the thing that seems to be her focus is to be a scientist. Although it's not clear what her interpretation of being a scientist is. So this abiogenesis, whatever that word is, actually I didn't know what it meant, but it sounded good over there. But nothing she's actually doing in her reconstituted kitchen turned into a lab says anything about the steps that she's taking forward. And then I also found I could relate to some parts of it because I went to the US in the mid-70s, and even though by then all the misogyny and all that was under the rug, it still existed, very much existed. And I was one of the few women in the man's world, so I can relate to all of her experiences in a man's world. But still, men were not just misogynistic or completely supportive. There are shades in between. And so I found that bit to be a bit of a caricature. And this daughter, Mad, I mean, even naming her Mad, I found kind of like, oh, come on, really? I also found the humorous parts. I thought Harriet and her husband and the stinky love marriage and all of that stuff was kind of amusing, and those are all the laugh out loud pieces because of the caricature. But after having listened to all of you speak about it, I'm still not sure if I like it or hate it. I think I'm kind of tending towards don't like it.
Yeah, you kind of...
Should I just talk like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree a lot with what Latika and Rameshan said. As I was reading the book, there were a lot of things that were... I said, no, this can't be true. But against it, we have the period of the late 50s, I would assume, and early 60s. This was the age of Camelot and Kennedy and then Johnson. And I think it was a good period to set it because in the so-called Camelot, all the abuses, all the perversions that we read of in this book, we just get a glance at them, but they were all very much there. They were there then, they were there now, they'll be there 10 years into the future. So the reason I like the book are the paradoxes. Take Elizabeth Zott. She's an atheist, but her moral compass consistently points north, more than any other character I have recently read about. She's a humanist, but there are days when the human race makes her sick. She's innately righteous, with a curious, unrelenting scientific bent of mind. It is this fierce sense of righteousness that brings out the best in the people she comes across. She's a champion, a leader, a trailblazer, but she's also the victim of perverse parents and rape. 5.2. She's an analytical scientist, yet in matters close to her heart, she's a woman. She emotionally feels that her insistence on her husband, Calvin, using a leash was the reason for his death. Again, with those that she's most fond of, she allegedly loses her scientific temper. She's convinced that she can teach English to her dog, and to her credit, that dog does learn about some 400 words or something like that. Oh, really, that many? Okay. But these are paradoxes, right? I mean, this is a scientist talking to her dog and reading books that we do at master's level. Third, Elizabeth hates the idea of having a child. And then, where Mad is born, she goes about the business of bringing up her child in her own unique way. There is conventionality when she has forced to go to school, but the paradox is the child is anything but a school kid. She spends her time walking about reading Sound and Fury. Next, she has every right to complain about the raw deal she has got in life, but never once does so. It makes us question our petty complaints. Next paradox is her husband, Calvin. He's an ardent, celebrated scientist, and yet he spends nights awake thinking that his wife will die because his other family members were killed tragically. It is equally paradoxical that he who feared his wife's death died first, died young. There is mention of religion, but in each case, religion is debunked. Elizabeth is searching for the origin of mankind, one which spiritual books all have given their respective explanations. Calvin Evans has been entrapped in a Catholic school, and there he was abused. Reverend Wakely clearly states that as a minister, he addresses stupidity. Society is largely based on myth and culture, religion and politics, which have a way of distorting the truth. Harriet comes into their life, calling the little child the devil's spawn, Satan's child, and other such things. And then we see that there is no better caretaker, nanny, come chauffeur, come co-conspirator. And our last paradox, I would say, the dog embodies the qualities of an ideal human. The book has a serious vein beneath its light-hearted, fleshy texture. Elizabeth says that humans share 99.9% DNA with each other, and this is not what Elizabeth says, but we know that society spends its time dividing people. The world was, and still in many cases is, a man-centric world. Scripture was written by men. How many of us question Scripture? When Roth, like many of us, say, religion humbles us, Elizabeth replies, religion teaches us that nothing is our fault, that someone else is pulling the strings, that to improve things we should pray. But the truth is, we are very much responsible for the badness in the world, and we have the power to change it, to fix it, she says. So I like these things in the book, whereas I see all the other things which seem too predictable or just unrealistic. That's it. And I'd just like to add, I'm the last speaker.
Yes. Yeah.
Prema, this session is all for you. I hope you get to hear this audio.
I hope she gets better quickly.
Yes.
She's still in the hospital. She's been discharged.
Yeah, and with that, we're done today.